Hey, morning everybody. It's Nick, as you can see. Just rolled out of bed first thing in the morning. The latest and greatest. It's a bit of a mixture today, so it's kind of menopause, stroke life, stroke aging, all kinds of stuff. So last week, not this week, the week before, I had a real dip in my energy levels. I'm about 2.5 months now not on HRT. Sorry to keep repeating myself, but I never quite know who's going to watch when, so I certainly don't expect everybody to watch all of my mad ramblings. But I came off HRT because of the side effects. I've been on HRT for a long time, over 6 years, and I was getting some side effects that weren't very nice: nausea, a lot of constipation and bloating, generally feeling not very well. And I think it's the same concept as with antibiotics. It was a very fancy, I think, Latin word for it that I can't remember of. Excuse me. That when you are putting, effectively it is chemicals, no matter how good the HRT is into your body is quite clever and eventually clicks and goes, oh no, I'm not going to accept that. And that's kind of what's happened with me. And there are different ways that you can. So, I then tried using gel HRT, which really hasn't suited me very well. So I do need to have a chat with my menopause consultant about using a different way to access HRT if indeed we still feel it's needed. So is it still needed? So I'm not seeing my menopause consultant until the start of December, and I'm quite happy to leave it till then, because I'd really quite like to run this experiment and just observe how I'm feeling. Last week I was bone tired, I was disengaged, I was demotivated, and I've noticed over the last 2.5 months that's happened to me a couple of times. So I'm just noting it in my journal, because obviously I don't bleed, so I don't know when the cycle's coming. And actually, in the old days, if I'd have felt like that, I'd have probably just gone, oh, I'm due on, I'm premenstrual. So obviously, we're not being on HRT. That's not, I haven't got the comfort blanket, so I probably wouldn't have noticed that so much on HRT. But not being on HRT, I am noticing this cycle, more of a cycle. But it did pass. It passed after about 4 or 5 days. My energy came back up and my engagement came back up. Now, that is a massive step forward for me, because when I first went on HRT 6 years ago, and I know many people have watched the Desperate Reality of the Menopause, which was a vlog I did 3 years ago, which was really in the midst of a really bad hormonal crash. There's no way I could have managed without HRT. It was a complete lifesaver, and my crashes and my cycle were really, really severe. They're definitely not that severe anymore. Absolutely, definitely not. So I think, please, I'm taking heart from that something has happened in my menopause, and that it has moved on. And whilst I was disengaged and tired last week, I didn't have the same level of feeling of desperation and sadness and anxiety. So that is a way, that's a step forward, really. And what I did to manage myself, was I just cut back. I just simplified my life as much as possible last week. I cut out the gym, I cut out anything that just felt, too much, and that I had the choice to be able to do. And obviously there's some stuff you can't cut out, in terms of, commitments you've made for work or, family and so forth. But just giving myself permission to cut out anything that I could, and to take a nap when I could, go to bed earlier, and just simplify really, really did make a big difference. And I think there's a psychological benefit for that for me as well. It's past this week, my energy levels have gone back up, and I have been much more engaged in life. So I think that's interesting. So what would I say about this week? So the last 48 hours have been quite tough, really. And I think, I wonder if things kind of bubble up inside us, and they kind of layer, and one thing's okay, and then another thing comes along and it's kind of okay. Another thing comes along and it's like, this is starting not to be okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I realised I had a prolapse, which was, do you know what, if I'm honest, it was quite scary. I did speak to my GP, obviously did some research online as well. And it's a very, very common thing for women, which happens for women of a certain age. I guess, I'm quite philosophical about it. I've had 3 children, quite quite heavy births. My children were big. All of my babies were very big. And I gave, well, I say naturally, as natural as it goes, with a bit of epidural and gas and air. So, you know, maybe it was just something waiting to happen. Who knows? And I went to see a gynecologist this week, and it was really interesting because as well as going to see the gynecologist this week, I also went to a conference by Gabby Mator. I'll get the book actually. I'd never heard of him. He came up on my Facebook. I just thought, oh, that looks interesting. There you go. And the reason I thought, oh, it looks interesting is because he's a US physician who specialises in trauma and the mind, body and soul link. And his hypothesis, his work is all about the fact that we can't just treat physical symptoms. It's the whole of us, and that actually a lot of our wounds and our traumas and things that have happened to us manifest themselves and actually present in certain illnesses. And, you know, it's very, very evidence-based, his work. It's very interesting. And I'm very curious about that. I mean, I am a soul midwife, so I work with people at end of life. I'm emotional and psychological support. It's a non-medical role. It's very much the emotional. How can we support people to die as peacefully as possible and come to terms with that and find as much peace as they can with that. That's my role, is basically to support people in that space. So, you know, this is something that's really interesting because, you know, I do a lot of work with people with soul wounds and replaying lives and regrets and fears and all kinds of things. So he was really interesting, and one of the things he said is that when we all rock up to, you know, our doctors and our consultants, they always, the first thing is, what are your symptoms? And they might ask what you do, but generally they won't ask about your life or what's happened to you or the more holistic stuff. And that was never more true when I went to see this gynecologist. And actually it was a really, it was an interesting, but a very, not, I wouldn't say not very nice. It wasn't a horrible experience, but it was very dissatisfying. So, and I had booked to go and see this gynecologist privately on health insurance. I'm sure I could have gone on the NHS, and in actual fact, in retrospect, I wonder whether I should speak to my GP and go down that route. But we will see. We will see. I will work that out. That is not the point of this. I was probably in the room less than 15 minutes. It was really, really quick and fast. She didn't really ask. She asked some very, very quick. I felt like there was a bit of a you know, gun going off at me. It was boom, 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 in terms of the questions. You know, how old are you? Have you had children? What's, you know, how do you know you've had a prolapse? Literally, the physical examination probably was less than a minute. And then she sat down and said, right, we're going to do A, B, 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 B. That was it. Less than 15 minutes and I'm out. And I was kind of a bit stunned, because that's not like me, because I think I'm very, very blessed. And I love the fact that both my GP and my menopause consultant really talk to me, and they really educate me. They don't just tell me what to do or tell me what to take. They tell me why I'm taking it, and they really explore my symptoms. So, for example, she has no idea about particularly the trauma of one of my labours. You know, so I had one of my children naturally, and they were £11.4, and, you know, they realised too late that that was a very big baby, and, you know, it wasn't going to be the most straightforward of births. So you can imagine, you know, what that does to your body. I was a bit battered and bruised. She didn't know anything about that. She didn't know anything about my life. She did kind of go, well, you know, what could have happened? You know, what exercise do you do? And I explained to her that I'd been going to my strength and conditioning classes because I'd ruptured my Achilles tendon and I'd had surgery to repair it. And it was important to me to try and strengthen my leg. Now, my leg's nowhere near back to where it should be. It's still half the size. My calf on one side is half the size of a calf on another side. I can wear little kitten heels, but not for very long. And I certainly can't wear high heels. So I've still got work to do. And, but she didn't explore any of that. She didn't explore what mattered to me or what didn't matter to me. It was just like, oh, you know, the weightlifting has probably contributed because I'm bearing down a lot when I'm doing the lifting of the weights. And basically it was, yeah, you can go to the gym, yeah, you can do exercise, but you can't do that kind of weightlifting stuff. That was it. I don't really understand. And even when I tried to kind of explore that and go, well, is that every single type of weightlift I do? is it really that kind of blunt? And she told me to take some stuff and sent me off for a scan, and that was it. So I don't know why I'm taking this stuff, because she didn't explain. She said we were going to take a conservative approach because surgery wasn't a good idea, but I don't really know why surgery is not a good idea. I'm not particularly precious about it. I'm very happy to take a conservative approach. I don't necessarily want to have surgery, but I would like to be able to be empowered to really understand why that decision has been made. And I just walked out thinking, she knows fuck all about me. And maybe it's because I've been to see Gabby Mate on the Monday night. I thought, she knows fuck all about me. She doesn't know what's important to me. She doesn't know what's happened to me. She's not investigated, why it's been so important that I've been going to my gym classes. Nothing. And it really hit me. And I thought, fucking hell, that's really good money, 15-minute appointment, because it's not cheap, these consultations. So I did walk away, and I just thought, I feel like I'm on a bit of a production line, and I'm just another number on the page, which I think is fundamentally wrong. I don't think, and I actually do have a hypothesis, is perhaps if we stopped treating these, all these things as the same and uniform, and actually started seeing people, then we might have a far more efficient and effective health service. So I think it really stuck. Maybe I was very much observing the experience because of reading Gabor and his view on the medical profession, and that, you cannot treat somebody's physical symptoms without understanding the whole of a person. And yeah, it's left me quite unsettled, actually. So I'm going to ring our health insurance, actually, and I'm going to ask for I've now been interestingly, only yesterday, I've now had somebody that's been recommended to me, so I'm just going to ring them and say I'm not very happy. I don't feel very comfortable with this consultant, and I would like to see this other one. What do I need to do to make that happen? And it was quite interesting because oh my goodness, I sound like a prolific attender of hospital appointments. There is something in that. I think as you get older, we do need to take care of ourselves. And I think one of the things the menopause brings up is that, our body is a very, very, very diverse and complex orchestra. And, I'm a really great believer in being proactive. I think it's really important to proactively take care of ourselves. So I don't really want to wait for things to break. And I think some of that is because I'm a sole midwife, and, the work I do with end of life can be, it's beautiful, but it can be really very deep, and it can really affect you. I'm a human being, and we are all inextricably linked. So I don't just rock up and support people and then be able to walk away and switch off. Obviously I have to manage boundaries, and I have to manage my own emotional well-being, but it's you are in a real place of vulnerability and love and compassion. So I think that means I'm very, very proactive about seeking holistic therapies, seeking intellectual therapies, and being very aware of how I'm feeling and where I am. And I've had these pins and needles in my hands and arms for months. They're not life-changing, they're not life-debilitating. They're just kind of there. They don't really bother me that much. They're just kind of there. And, the NHS has been amazing because they're just checking things. And it actually all started from a menopause consultant who'd picked up on my thyroid and pituitary gland and just wanted it checking out on a scan. And the neurologist had asked about, what was going on with me. And I'd said about these pins and needles. And actually he was really good because he was somebody that really talked to me about who I was, my life, what I did, and getting an idea. All's fine. But then he referred me to a spinal surgeon to say, let's just, it's a process of elimination because we are quite complex beings. So let's just do a scan on the spine and just make sure there's nothing going on there that we need to pay attention to, which I thought was fine. And I saw the spinal consultant on Monday on the back of an MRI scan I'd had, and he was delightful. And you know what? We were chatting. I must have been in there for, over half an hour, and it was a really holistic conversation. The spine looked fantastic. He said, particularly for my age, it was actually in really good shape. And I said, that's brilliant. Sometimes I get a bit of backache, but it's not a massive deal. And when I do, I have to say that, yoga is just a winner, winner. What's that saying? Winner, winner, something dinner. Can't remember. Yeah, I do get a bit of lower backache, particularly if I've been stood all day, or I don't know if those of you, if I'm bent over in the garden and stuff like that. It's just natural age stuff. But I have to say, if I do some yoga and some twisting yoga and some forward folds and so forth, yoga's just bloody unbelievable, and is definitely one of my core tools for coping with the menopause. And I don't mean kind of, because I know you can see a lot now out there, this kind of, get fit, go yoga. Not that kind of yoga. I do very much the old-fashioned yoga where you do very slow movements, you hold poses, you're kind to yourself, you just do a little, it's not a competition. It's very much a lifestyle thing. And there's a lot of breathing techniques that they teach you with it in terms of what I would call the more traditional yoga. And I really, really enjoy it. And that's definitely my go-to thing if I'm, if my energy's low, if my back's hurting, if I've got the joint ache and pains. I'm digressing. This guy was really superb. And we actually got talking about, the concept of the body leaks. So, very often I might be having these pins and needles, but the body leaks information to us all the time. And that's why, in medicine, they often approach it by a process of elimination. And one of the things we got talking about, and I'm very open-minded about it, is, he did wonder if we can manifest. And this is very much what Gabor Matt is saying. So from a clinical perspective, there's no reason why I should be having these pins and needles. They've done an MRI scan on my head. They've done a scan on my full spine. They've checked blood results. They've been very, very thorough. It's been a really impressive process with the NHS. I wish it could be that thorough and impressive, I have to say, with the menopause. But you know what? Rome wasn't built in the day. I'm sure they will get there, but it is playing catch up, right? The demand is there from us, and we just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And yeah, we arrived at the conclusion that clinically we'd ruled out anything horrible. We're just going to see how it goes. He empowered me and educated me by telling me what symptoms to look for that would escalate this and raise a clinical concern, so that, I feel like I'm in control. And I really got what he was saying about, our body's leaking information. And it might be something as simple as sometimes I sit very still in one position for a long time, particularly if I'm vigiling with somebody that I'm supporting. So it might be something as simple as just the positions I take. It might be, who knows? So it was really interesting, the difference, that experience. And I walked away from that experience feeling heard, feeling seen, feeling comforted. And it was a really nice feeling. I really felt that he'd taken the time to understand me and what was important to me and so forth. Whereas this gynecologist, it really didn't feel very nice. And there's something quite primal, about, for me, about the prolapse, because, it is our femininity. And actually, on a practical level, I just don't want to be incontinent when I'm older, right? And I know that people are going, oh my God, she's talking about this on a vlog. It's like, yeah, this happens to a lot of women. Of course we should talk about it. We shouldn't be embarrassed. What, are we embarrassed to talk about, if we have colitis or, God forbid, bowel cancer or something? We all take a shit. Women have a vagina. We have a uterus. We have all of these things, and they need taking care of the same as anybody else. So yeah, I'm definitely, I haven't been a saint with my pelvic floor exercises over the years, so I know that I need to do more of that. But that was a very long, I think I'm needing to download and rant, because I was really upset last night. I know I was upset because there's just some other stuff that I'm sad about that's really natural to be sad about. But I think that really wobbled me. I think just rocking up, it's quite an intimate, it's an intimate part of my body. It's an intimate part of my body, and it means a lot, And I think just that not feeling heard or seen, and not feeling empowered, or really understanding what we need to do and why, and kind of almost a bit of a feeling of dismissed and being that almost faceless person, because it was quite interesting. She didn't actually look at me, and she was a woman. She didn't actually look at me that much, and there wasn't a lot of eye contact. So it's interesting how that made me feel. It didn't make me feel very nice. It made me feel quite sad, actually. So it made me feel quite sad. And the last, so that's whether is that, I don't think that, I think that's fuck all to do with not being in HRT. I think this is about saying that we are all human beings, we all have vulnerability, we are all inextricably linked, and actually we all need to be seen and we all need to be heard. And I think it's really brought it to the fore, because I'm reading somebody who's saying that that is absolutely critical in terms of providing effective healthcare. And the last point, perhaps this will make you smile, being off HRT, I have to say my forgetfulness and brain fog is off the scale. My son was at football the other night, so I thought, I'll prepare the dinner, and I put the dinner in the oven while I'm at football with him. Prepared the chicken, I put the oven on, I put the timer on. Thought, yeah, that's it. You know, dinner's in the oven. When I get home from football, it'll be cooked. And I got to football, and my daughter messaged me, and she said, "Mother, did you actually want the chicken to be in the oven?" I'd actually left it on top of the hob. And do you know what? I was sat at football in my lovely La La Land, having a chat with some delightful people, thinking, yeah, lovely, dinner will be cooked when I'm in. Not. So there we go. The forgetfulness is there, but it's okay. Latest and greatest. As ever, you know, I really hope, I don't know how much it helps sharing my journey or not, but it really helps me being able to talk. So thank you very much. Lots of love.